Hi, welcome to Tip Tuesday. My name is Ben Sykes. I'm a developer here at IndySoft, and I thought I'd talk about something a little more advanced today. It would only apply if you're writing custom scripting in IndySoft, but it's a very quick tip that can maybe have some really powerful gains for you. So if you happen to be writing custom scripting in IndySoft, or if you know custom scripting has been done in the past, maybe in consulting, I wanted to show some recent tricks that we have in scripting for speeding things up. So if you've got some operations in scripting that are doing a lot of SQL in a loop, then there's a quick way that you can really maybe speed things up. So let me give you an example here. This is a test script that I've created. And basically what I'm trying to do here is update 30 different attributes on an asset, but then update 30 assets all at once. So 30 attributes times 30 assets, 900 different updates against the database. But they're all really similar. I'm just updating a text attribute, 30 of these on 30 different attributes all at once. So the most inefficient way you could do that would just be to call 900 different update statements in a row that update these various values that you might need. So if I did that in this example here, and I'll show you the code in a second, then this runs in about 3 seconds. But the tip that I'm going to show you here, there's a way to make that at least 5 or 6 times faster, rather than just calling a bunch of statements together. So here, let me delete it and try it again. So if you run in this tip I'm about to give you, it can be about 6 times faster. Very simple, the tip here. So let me show you the script behind the scenes. So the only difference there, let me pull this on the screen. So when I did run SQL Multiple, so here I've got 30 different assets, 30 different attributes that I'm trying to update. So I've got a loop that's a nested loop between the assets and the attributes, and I'm just creating an update statement for each one. So 900 statements together, and then I'm calling run SQL for each one. So the really simple tip is, why call run SQL 900 times in a row if you're doing similar type of operations, or really just doing anything that is a bunch of update statements all in a row, and you're not necessarily doing selects in between, trying to respond to data that might have just changed. If it's just a bunch of update or insert statements all at once, why not assemble them into one batch together? So that's the only change that I made here with run SQL single, is I'm doing the same 2 nested loops here, but I'm just assembling all the SQL into a text variable first, and then at the end of each statement, I'm just making sure they end in a semicolon, and maybe to keep them a little more organized visually, I'm adding a carriage return in between each one. If I'm not on the first item here, it adds a carriage return. And then I just call one run SQL and pass it that text variable. So that's the only change, and that'll run maybe 5 or 6 times faster. It could be a lot faster depending on the potential latency and database speed that you have. So that's really the takeaway from this, is if you're doing a bunch of insert or update statements in a row, and you don't need to be doing select statements in between necessarily, as many of these statements that you can run and execute in a batch together, simply assemble them and run under a single run SQL statement. But there's an even more advanced version of this, which I won't get into this too much, but just put a bug in your ear here, and maybe you could contact IndySoft Consulting on this. The fastest possible way you could do this would be to assemble a parameterized query. So let me illustrate that. So running multiple statements was about 3 seconds. I could do this in 368 milliseconds. But if I do a parameterized query, then here it's 3 times faster than even the single statement. And then the second time that I run that, it can be exponentially faster. So 25 milliseconds, and I just updated 900 different records. So the way that that's accomplished, and again, this is maybe a little bit beyond the detail that I can give in a video like this, but I'll just pop up a quick example for you. Just so you know, our scripting is capable of this. So again, this applies to in scripting if you're doing a bunch of update, insert, delete type of operations in a row, then why not assemble them into a single SQL and run them together would be the first tip, or why not create a parameterized query and send that along. So you can do that in scripting by calling start batch and then execute batch. And this is described more in the help, and we can assist you with this in consulting. But there's a couple different formats for this. You could either name the parameters there just with integers, and then you could use this param type by index type of syntax, or down here you could name your parameters by name and then use param type by name. So the basic idea here is if you're used to doing this in writing SQL, you write a parameterized query and you send that in your start batch statement, and then you pass along the total batch size of records you're going to be updating. Then you just teach the scripting the type of data that you have for all of the parameters that you've referenced. So here I referenced 4 parameters. So I'm noting the type of data, wide string or integer or date time. And this is documented in the help also. And then as I loop through, rather than creating SQL for each one, I'm going to be populating the different records that are in this batch. So I've got 4 different parameters. So there I'm just setting the particular values for all 4 of those parameters for every record that I've got in that batch. And then I call execute batch all at once. So this first parameter is just there's 10 different data sets that you can use behind the scenes for doing scripting. So we're just using the first one. So just to put a bug in your ear there, we can also do parameterized queries in custom scripting, and the speed gains there can be great. You'll notice the very first time I ran it, it was faster than just assembling a bunch of SQL statements and running them all at once. But the second time it ran it, it was even maybe 10 times faster than the first time. And that's because the database, when the database has a parameterized query like that, it can optimize as much as possible because it knows the structure of the data that's going to come in the successive statements. And then all of its memory usage is going to be optimized for that. And it can keep that in memory. So if you call something very similar, maybe from another workstation, then that can have the advantage of that speed optimization in the database. So write parameterized queries whenever you can. All right, thanks. Hope you have a great week.